it looked like a Bigfoot. They said, yes. Freaks me out. She was like just terror. I've never seen her look like that in my life, like just terror. So my name is Doug Hill, and was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and ever since I was a kid. So God, I want to say 5, 6 years old, somewhere around there. I was just always interested in everything from paranormal, UFO, Loch Ness monster, Bermuda Triangle, like you name it. I was kind of interested in it. I was a very big nerd growing up, so my parents literally used to take me to the library on the weekend, and I would actually take out books on the Bermuda Triangle, on Bigfoot, all that stuff, and I would actually do book reports on my own. So that's, like I said, very very nerdy. So that's what got me into it. Um, and then yeah, I never expected to see anything. It was just kind of always an interest of mine.
So I know that you've had some experiences, some firsthand experiences. So why don't we just start with that and give me a detailed description of what happened to you?
Sure. So I mean, so I'll save there's a way that this all ties together, kind of a big one, and it was actually my first one. But I'll start with the latest one, just because the other, unless you want me to start with the way, I mean, it's a crazy
Well,
story.
why don't we just start with, the very beginning, and we can get a chronological order of, what really happened to you, and just
Sure.
hope our audience stays with us through that whole story, because if it all ties together, it'll probably be a really interesting thing to hear.
Yeah, yeah. It's just yeah, I've told it to just close friends and everything. Never on a platform like this, that's for sure. But I've actually gone to libraries and spoken there as well. I've done coffee shops here and there. There's actually, so if you look online, you can actually find groups like this, right? I'm sure you're aware. And you can go and share stories and things. So done that. But yeah, mine started back in, it was 1994. So I was born in 82. I was 12 years old, and I had an experience where basically, I woke up and I was no longer in my bed. So what happened was, it's crazy. I was actually abducted, and what happened was I ended up on a craft of whatever sort. I don't know what it was, but when I was woken up, um, I was there. So again, this does tie to Bigfoot stuff. I promise.
Okay, that's fine.
But yeah, I've had just all sorts of crazy stuff happen. But so yeah, when I woke up, I was there, and there was beings there, and I remember
Describe those beings to me. What did they look like?
So I mean, being I was 12, they were a lot bigger than I was. I know that. So I was actually on a table. So I was like laying down on a day, very much like a doctor's table, minus the scratchy whatever cloth they put down or paper or whatever. But yeah, so I was on a table, and there was two that I remember over me, and like, oh man, it was crazy. Kind of like bigger heads. I want to say, if I had to guess height wise, 5.5 feet, maybe something like that. Like they were substantially bigger than I was, and I remember being completely freaked out. They had like the pale. It was like a bluish skin color. I want to say it was like not. It wasn't the typical grays that you see. It was like kind of like a more, yeah, it's more light bluish, like bluish gray maybe. And yeah, so they had kind of like what people describe. So I've watched plenty of abduction stories and things, and it's a crazy, it's just a crazy thing to be a part of. So what people describe, I will tell you this: I was questioning things right away, like what, basically, like, what is going on, and you could feel it was like calm, very calm, but I was kind of panicked, but it was also the it wasn't a chaotic scene. And I remember hearing like, "You're okay. We're okay. Everything's okay." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm not okay, right? Like I'm not in my house, and I was 12, so like I'm a kid. And yeah, so I remember them just kind of going like, you're okay, research." And I'm just like, "Okay, well, what is this?" So yeah, oh God, it was such a, it like gives me the heebie-jeebies still to this day. My hair will literally start standing up. But yeah, so again, much bigger than I was. I was more just, I was intimidated by the whole thing. But what I saw there was absolutely bizarre. So again, I had been interested in Loch Ness Monster, all that stuff growing up, right? So how when I looked at these things, I looked past them, and the craft, it was very plain inside and dark. But there was like test tube looking things, almost like a science fiction movie in like the corners. And actually, yeah, there was like the corner here, and this thing, it looked like a test tube, like you see in the movies with where like there's a person or something inside of it. I don't know if you know what I mean. Um, but anyway, it looked like a Bigfoot, and I was like, "This is." So I remember going, "That looks like a Bigfoot," and they said yes, and I said, I was like thinking, I'm like, "Oh my god, they caught a Bigfoot," and they said we didn't catch the Bigfoot. So it was more like we didn't catch it, and they basically told me that they created it. I don't know if they breed them or they create them or what. But that, like, once I started getting back into this stuff a few years ago, I was reading stuff I had never heard about, the portals and things like that. And once I looked at that, I was like, oh my god, these things are like it's almost like being sent here and then taken away, and it's crazy. So anyway, get back, I'm home, freaked out. I'm like not myself for several days. My parents don't know what's going on. I have no idea what's happening.
Wait a minute.
um
Let's get a little bit more detail.
yeah, sure.
What is your memory between that point of being on the craft, seeing the test tube with the Bigfoot in it, and then being home? Did you have any conscious knowledge of how you got home or what happened in between?
No, it was like I don't know if they put me under anesthesia or whatever happened, but I woke up in my bed. So it was like no, I didn't get like transported or anything like that. It was very, very spotty, very like I'm in my bed, or I don't remember going to bed to be honest, but if I was like in bed, I guess, and then woke up on the craft, had like interaction with with these things, if I'm going to say people beings, and we communicated. But I don't remember if I was saying this stuff out loud, but it didn't feel like it felt like the answers were immediate. Like if I was thinking something, the answer was right there. I remember that specifically because I was like just overwhelmed. They're like, I'm like, oh, that's a Bigfoot. Yes, Bigfoot. I'm like, what the hell? So I was like very just shocked by that. But as far as
Did you have any sense that this could have been a dream or that it was actually that you were actually physically there?
no, this was I felt like I was physically there. Like I know I was physically there. So I actually have markings on my back too. So I didn't find this out actually till later in life. But I have there's this I can show you if you want, but I'll see if you can see it. I can't tell, but there's like four little things right in the line, or it's like a certain anyway, it's like a square. I have a picture of it on my phone. I can show you.
It's like a
Um,
square. Just describe it to me. They look white to me. Are they
no,
white marks?
no, they're like red. So
Red
I'll try
marks
to.
that form a square?
It's just
Oh,
like
oh, they're dots. Yes,
they're
got it.
yeah. So there are dots there, which I did not notice, and I actually don't think because there's pictures of me as a teenager without these things, so it's very odd. But um, it's crazy. So I was actually going to like sporting events and stuff, and then they kept doing the wand over me, and they kept going like, "Yeah, you've got something here. I take my belt off. You got something here." Something was there.
That
Um,
which a metal detector wand. Is that what you're talking
yeah,
about?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, and to this day, I will set those things off like crazy. I can't. I've lost tons of money on sporting events, concerts. I got it. I have it to the point now. I'm a Philadelphia Flyers. I'm a hockey fan, and I have it now where I go in the same door every time, and I give the guy money every single time. He knows me at this point. My family's had season tickets forever, so I go in there and he lets me in, but I would fail a metal detector every single time. And the only other metal I have in my body is I broke my wrist, but that was in like 2018. But this has been happening for years, and I just never had an answer to it.
Since
Um,
before 2018. What year what's the first year you remember that happening to you?
oh God, I couldn't tell you. Yeah, I honestly don't remember. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know. But as far as so what I did, and this is kind of nutty too. So I actually just um, once I started notice it was the same spot every time. I was like, I'm just gonna go to the hospital. Like, I'm just gonna get it figured out. So I just pretended like I was in a lot of pain. I was like, my back, I can't, I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm in a lot of pain and stuff like this. So they did all types of tests and everything else. Asked me if I had come into contact with any kind of shrapnel, anything. Have I ever fallen on anything like this? And then they did tell me that there's a piece of metal inside, um, and they don't know what it was. So they're like, yeah, we don't know what it is. But they didn't want to take it out. The doctors, I opted to not take it out actually. But yeah, they have no idea what the thing is. So, but I've had that since I'm assuming 1994. So yeah, quite a long time.
Yeah. And 1994 was when you feel like you were abducted and saw the Bigfoot?
Correct. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct. And then it's just stuff after that. I mean, between I was always the one thing I was always skeptical was like ghosts for whatever reason. Like I was interested in them, but I was kind of skeptical. I didn't really believe in them. And then the house next door to where I live now, um, that I have all sorts of experiences there. Just and it just seems like since I was 12, just weird stuff all the time happens to me. So and my close friends all know it. They're like, why is all this weird stuff always happening to you? I'm like, I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you. So, but it's I
Well,
just
and
attract
it
weird
didn't,
stuff.
and that didn't, those things didn't happen before you were 12, right? Before this
Not that I,
incident.
not that I recall. No, not like this. No. Um,
So, okay, so now you're gone through the whole UFO abduction, seen the Bigfoot in a test tube. Now
right.
you're now you are metallic in some way in nature.
Yeah.
Something's been inserted into you. Don't know for sure why. They didn't tell you. They didn't give you any information on any of that, right? So
Or
now,
tell me.
have
Yeah.
you had any other information regarding Bigfoot since then?
Yeah. Well, as far as what I've seen, so yeah, so
Yeah. Mhm.
I've had a couple of experience. So they're all in central Pennsylvania. So central PA, there's a place called Raystown Lake, and my in-laws have a cabin there and everything. They've had property there for years and years. So so we go up there, and the last one that we experienced was pretty wild. Um, I had seen one prior. Would you like to hear my first one first
Yeah, yeah.
for the
Let's start with the first one, and then we'll talk about the second one.
Sure. Yeah. So when I was a kid, again, it was probably a teenager, I want to say. I go hiking all the time. I'm like always outside. Been fascinated again with outdoors since I was a kid as well. So I'm always going around. And I will say I've had plenty of sightings that ended up being bears as well. We have a lot of black bears up in the mountains here. Um, so they're pretty common. But yeah, so I was up in I don't know if you know the Poconos, if you've heard of the
Yes.
Poconos.
Mhm.
So the
Sure.
Poconos, there haven't been many sightings from what I can see online. But yeah, so I was out there with a couple buddies, and be honest, we were out there just drinking and stuff. So we were coming out we were camping in the woods and drinking and having a good time, playing guitars and stuff like that. And we were going out, and we kept hearing noises at night, which not uncommon in the woods, right? We've camped many, many times. But lots of so the one night that I remember, we were all around the campfire, went to bed in their tents, and then I was awoken by kind of like whooping. It was like a sound like somebody like woo, like in the woods. And I just didn't know what the heck it could be. Like I was thinking owl, right? But I know what owls sound like. We have owls. I should show you out the window, but just tons of woods here. So like my property is also very wooded. So we have owls here. So I know what owls sound like. And it was just it was kind of a chilling experience hearing that. We didn't see anything that trip. That was not an experience there. We just heard noises. And I had asked the other people in the middle of the night, did you hear that? Yeah, we heard it. We just figured, oh, it's an animal, whatever. But I'm like, I don't know. I just got this really uneasy feeling. So I was like, I don't think it was a regular animal personally. That's me. Excuse me. Get a drink real quick. But as far as the the other experience where I had seen though, so there was two. One was my band played a show, and it was odd because it was like right outside of Philadelphia. suburbs of Philly. And we were out there, and we have to unload equipment every time we play a show. So we have to go, and once we leave, or once we're done our set, we have to go and take the equipment out and everything else. So a couple of the guys smoke, so we were doing that, and wooded line across the street from us. We looked up, and my buddy's like, "There's a bear," and I looked up, and I was like, that doesn't look like a bear. And they have known about my experiences before, like what I had seen, what I like. I say I know about the them making them and them being like drones because what I experienced. So they were like, that's a bear. It's a bear. It's a bear. Check it out. Check it out. It's a bear. I was like, that's not a bear. Look at it. So we got a little bit closer, and just freaks me out. So you could literally, before we even got across the street, again, the wood lines were kind of up. They're kind of up a hill, and then it's pretty heavy, densely wooded area, and a lot of Pennsylvania is. And we go up and we get closer. We cross the road. Before we get there, we start smelling the smell, and we're like, I don't like it. It's just like, it just smelled awful. And we looked up and we see this thing. And by the time we get across the street, it had gone into the woods. So we go up and we're trying to find it, right? Like we're idiots. So we don't care. We're just like, let's go. We'll be famous. Who cares? So we go up and we're going up the wood line. Nothing. There's no disturbance. There's no nothing. There's nothing else except for that smell. So we had seen that. It was brief, probably realistically 10, 15 seconds, something like that. But it was huge. When I say huge, I'm 6'4", and it was probably 7'5", 7'3", 7'5", something like it was big, over 7 feet. And so we got up there, and most of the bears around here, the black bears are not that big. Um, they're fat, but they're not real tall. So if they stand up, like it's very, very different from what we saw that day. It was dark, so I will tell you that. So it was very difficult. I couldn't get any like detailed or anything or any details out of it. Pardon me. But we were able to see that, and we definitely were all freaked out after that.
So what were the details that you could make out that made you think that it was a Bigfoot?
So the arm length alone it just looked way more like realistically like an ape. Like it looked like a big ape. So the arms were just huge. Don't want to say they were like touching the ground, but like they were so much bigger than what a typical bear would be. So the arms, and it just stood there, kind of straight up. And then when we were going, we are like, there was cars and stuff going. So we were waiting for cross the street, and like we look up and it's just gone. So I'm like, that's cool. Like I wanted to actually see it, wanted to see it up close, but yeah, I couldn't really see color. It was very dark outside, so we couldn't really see color or anything. I will tell you the other one I've seen was more orange tinted, kind of like almost like an orangutan. It looked like that coloring with like a little brown in it. So I was able to see that one more detailed. But this first one, yeah.
Tell me about the second one you saw then.
Yeah, so that was up at the cabin, and my wife and kid were there actually, and my kid was 5 at the time. And so we got out of the car, and again, tons of bears up there. Very used to seeing bears up there. They rummage through the trash. Like there's a couple cabins where we have, and they always are up there. So we get out of the car, and my wife goes, "Well," she's like, "What's that?" And I looked, and I was because it was kind of near the house. If you look, there's kind of like a little stream. If you're looking where we park, there's like a stream and then a big hill. It's almost like a big mountain. Like it's not easy to go through if you. It's not easy to traverse, if you will. So yeah, I was like, right when we get out, she was like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "What?" Probably a bear. And because the bear, it's so weird. I don't know if they come around because people feed them or what, but that we do see tons of bears. So we're going over, are we getting out? And my wife goes, "What's that?" And I get out, getting my kid out. I'm like, I'm not paying attention. And then I look, and I was like, "Oh my god, is that is what we think it is?" So she freaks out. She's like, "Get the kid in the house, get the kid in the house." And I was like, "Look, I know, first off, I don't know of any. I haven't heard any stories of people like getting really hurt by them. I've seen one where a guy got beat up or whatever, but I've never heard of them attacking or anything like that. And I've never I felt uneasy in the woods, but there's tons of predators out there, right? So like you have to be a little uneasy in the woods. Um, but I don't feel threatened by them at all. After seeing what I've seen in the craft, I just don't feel threatened at all. So I looked, and she's like, "Get in the house, get in the house, get in the house." And she was like, you could see it's just terror. Like literally, I've never seen her look like that in my life, like just terror. And so I get the kid. I was like, let the kid watch. Just let the kid watch, because like you're not going to experience this every day. Like it's just not going to happen. So we were looking at, and that was the one where it had the orange. It almost looked like an orangutan almost. Again, very, very large, bulky, very large. Looked like it had stuff like kind of almost like brush or something in it. I couldn't really describe it better than that, but like almost like it had been dragging stuff through the woods. And so we sat and we watched. And he was like, again, right at the wood line, just right there, right across from the
Sure.
stream.
About how far away was that from you?
If I had to guess, oh, we play baseball there. It's probably 300 feet, maybe. Yeah, something like that. About that. Yeah,
And
about 300 feet.
what time of day was it?
That was late afternoon. Yeah, so late afternoon. So we got up there. I want to say 5:30, something like that. Because we stopped for lunch on the way, and yeah, we always stop at the same spot. So by the time we got there, yeah, it's probably 5:30 ish, something like that. But
So
that
still
was great.
daylight. You could see it clearly.
Oh yeah, yeah. This one was daytime, and you could see everything. So yeah, it was crazy, and it was like to use. It was like majestic. Yeah, it was like majestic looking. Like it just like, oh, it's crazy. It just looked. It was standing there, and I'm like, look at that, look at that. I was like, let the boy watch, let the boy watch. It's like I said, you just don't know. And my wife freaking out, just complete white as paper, just like completely freaked out. We still talk about it, well, obviously all the time, but yeah, it's pretty wild.
And when was this? When did this happen?
Oh, that was last year. Yeah, that was only last year. So it's weird that my kid doesn't talk about it, like at all, which is weird. Because we ask him, "Hey, do you remember the big creature? Do you remember the big creature?" Yeah, yeah. I'm like, guys, I want him to remember. It's not something that many people experience for sure.
So you're
Um,
standing there, 5:30, get out of the car. You're standing there watching this thing about 300 feet away. You can see it clearly. What is it doing?
I was standing there. It looked like it was standing there. It looked like it was almost shocked to see us. So we had pulled up, and yeah, it looked almost like, hey, yep, you see me? Like, yeah, it kind of just stood there and kind of looked at us. It wasn't hunting that I know of. It wasn't hanging at. It was literally just like standing there. So,
And
I mean,
it looked at you, it looked at you, and you looked at it for about how long?
30 seconds, 30, 45 seconds. Like it was a long time. It was uncomfortable. Um, as far as like, because my wife's sitting there freaking out, she's freaking out. Get it. She was yelling, get the kid out, get the house, get it, get it. And it's just standing there, not reacting, not moving. It was almost like it's like, if I stand here, you can't see me, kind of thing. Like it's just I'm camouflaged, whatever. And I was like, no, you're like right there in the open. We can definitely see you. So it was very bizarre. It's almost like yeah, deer do that too. Like they'll run and then stop and look at you, and they're just looking at you. It was kind of like that where we were just looking right at it, and it's intimidating, but also just like it's very crazy. It's just a crazy experience.
So what happened? What happened to break that spell of just looking at each other?
I just kept looking at my wife and everything, and we were looking up, and it actually walked up into the woods. So it was nothing like it disappeared or anything like that. It walked up in the woods. So I was like, "Look, we'll go inside." Blah blah blah. There's no cell service there at all. It sucks. So everything's like Wi-Fi. So we're texting people. We're doing this. Hey, we saw this thing. It's here. Blah blah blah. And I tell her, I'm like, "Look, I'm gonna go out. I don't have guns or anything, so I just had a knife. But I was like, look, again, I don't feel really, I'm not scared of it. It's hard to describe, very hard to describe, but I'm not. afraid to like. I just want to see it. I want to have an interaction with it. So I go and I'm like, I'm just gonna go out there. I'll be right back. And she's like, no, you can't go. You can't go. I was like, I'm gonna go. Just I want to see if I can get any kind of like any hair. If I want to see if I can see the footprints. I just want to see if there's any disturbance, if there's any broken trees, things like that. And I go up there and I know right where it is. There's literally there's a fallen tree, which not from it. It's been there fallen forever. Snakes and stuff love it. So the fallen tree, and it was right to the left of that. So I go over and I'm like, there has to be stuff here, right? No footprints, no hair. I'm like going around looking at the trees, trying to see. I'm like, oh, I'll get something, right? And nothing. So unfortunately, no luck with that stuff. But and I didn't see it again, unfortunately. I was
Have
like,
you
ah,
known
it's
of
probably
anyone, have you known of anyone else in that area, that vicinity, seeing anything like that?
no. And it's weird because like nobody really talks to each other. It's kind of bizarre. And I up in the bar there, it's all like it's just a completely different mindset out there. It's a lot of like rough and tumble guys, and I don't want to bother them. Like, hey, do you see the Bigfoot up here? Around here I do it all the time, but up there it's just like a different vibe. Like I feel like they'll like beat me up or something if I start talking to them. So I
Mhm.
don't know of anybody else.
Sure. Going back to your abduction experience, did you ever have any further contact with those beings or any other feeling that you'd gone back to the craft or had any other interaction with them?
Yes. So it's happened in my 20s. It hasn't happened anytime recently, but in my 20s I had that happen. I had a lot of traumatic stuff happen in my life too. So I had like I'm into like the big heavy metal scene. I was all sad and this and that, right? So growing up, I would drink a bunch too. And it seemed like so a couple of experiences that I had. One, I know I was drinking, so I don't know if I ended up on a craft or what, but I could absolutely like speak with these things. And it was like almost like I could see the same experience I had when I was 12. I could see them like standing in front of me. And I was like, there you are, there you are. And were, yes, we're here. I was like, there, what is this thing in me? I would freak out. What's this thing in me? What'd you put in me? Is this a tracking device? Blah, blah, blah. And I would like almost get upset. And it was, oh, it's okay, everything's safe, you're safe. We're good. Uh it's always research. They're like, it's research. We're just researching. And I had asked them about the Bigfoot stuff too, because I'm just like, yeah, I'm like, what are these Bigfoot things? I see these Bigfoot things. What is this? Uh, Other people seeing them, blah, blah, blah. And they say it's all for research. We basically put them out in densely wooded areas, research, we're gathering information. So they want to like, I don't know if it's so, I didn't ask specifics. I don't know, but like soil, I assume, and just like maybe places they can't get their craft. I have no idea. But that's what I gather is that they're sending these things down and then basically taking them. I don't know if they take them back up or if they go into some sort of the portal thing people talk about. I've never seen that, but if they're talking about that and back up there, but that's what I gather from them. And
Did they tell you that, or did you make a lot of assumptions in the middle of that? Or did they actually specifically tell you that?
oh no. No, when I asked them, I said, "Well, what?" I was like, "What are you sending them here for? What are you sending them here for?" And I said, "Research, research. We're always looking for, yeah, just and we have to put them in the areas that we can't get to." I as the only things I've assumed is like I I don't think that those things I don't think they're hunting. But it does make a lot of sense when you look at the like nobody's finding these things, nobody's finding carcasses, nobody's finding droppings. Like yes, they leave imprints in the ground and stuff, but everything else is like they vanish. And I've seen it. They just go away and they just vanish. And you'd think something that big you'd be able to hear it running away or something like that, and they just don't.
Well,
So
let's clarify that. Did
yeah,
you see it vanish, or did it just walk away and then you couldn't find any evidence of it, is what you mean by that?
the one where up it was up in the woods, yeah, more walked up the big hill to where I couldn't see him anymore.
Right. And then
um
there wasn't any evidence that you could find that he'd ever been there.
Correct, he didn't just vanish in front of my eyes though. The
Okay, I
other
wanted
one,
to clarify that. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
So what else can you tell me? I mean, obviously you've had, a lot of time to be able to do some further research. Do you actually do any research, or is this just something that has just happened to you?
Tons. No, I go out all the time. I'm actually going up to the Poconos this weekend. So I'll be going up there and doing some hiking. Yeah, me and a group of friends go up there. They're all believers as well. So we go up and we camp. We try, we're not quiet about it or anything. We'll be playing music and stuff. We just want basically to know, hey, look, we're here, we're peaceful, we're just trying to be fun. But we are always trying to actively search for things. Um, yeah, we talk to people around the town. There's a couple of us that meet up at this pizza place and we all go out. We talk about them all the time. So, but as far as research, I do online research too, but I'm in the woods, God, all the time. I mean, you catch
So
me. Go ahead.
on these research trips, have you ever found anything? Do you have you discovered anything?
No, I've had a bunch of friends that they're like, yeah, look at the tree things, like the what do they call them, the TP looking things. I don't know what they call those, but the structures that they say they build, I've seen those. Um, but I feel like my kid has one of those at the lake we go to. He built one, so like I just don't I don't ever think that's concrete evidence. I think that's so. I mean, sure, can they maybe have those? Sure, but I just don't personally. I don't think that's the case. But it's, so as far as evidence we found, I've not found a footprint. We've not found anything, to be honest with you. Like it's crazy. It's disheartening, but we always are watching. I spend a lot of nights outside too. So I will spend a lot of nights out. So I sleep outside a lot. So I'll just sleep. I love being connected with like the universe. I feel like I want to have another experience like that I had back then. It's like I do and I don't. It's kind of weird. If I don't know if you know what I mean, but it's like I want it to happen, but it's also something I've been dealing with forever. So I kind of don't, but I just want more answers. And so I'll spend a lot of nights out there, and sure enough, nothing happens. I'll sleep, fall asleep out there. I have a couple chairs out there. I'm just sitting out there sleeping. But once I get up, it's yeah. No, I haven't seen anything else.
So do you believe that even though you've been told they this thing is um produced in some fashion or some way by these aliens on the craft, do you believe that they're actually flesh and blood here while they're on Earth? Do you think they eat and they poop and they breathe and they hunt, and do you believe any of that?
I can't say I believe it or I don't believe it just because I haven't seen that. I haven't seen him eating. I haven't seen him pooping. I haven't seen him do anything like that. I know there's stories of them fishing and hunting deer and things like that, but I haven't seen it. To me, it looked like the way that these things were in these tubes. It looked like a test tube baby. Like that's the best way I can describe it. It looked like a test tube baby, except they were these Bigfoot. They were huge. This craft was big, by the way. So like they were big, and I was like, God. And so I, I don't know if they breed them or if they make them, manufacture them to look like bears. Like that. This is my assumption. I assume that hey, they make these things. They try to make them look enough like bears, and they just put them in the woods. And if they get close, they take them away. That's kind of my assumption, but yeah, everything's an assumption at this point. I can't tell you they're flesh and blood.
The research that you felt like they were doing, they were obviously researching something about human beings because you were there. And
Correct.
then you feel like that they were using this Bigfoot creature to also do some form of research on the planet.
Correct. Yeah, I think that they send them. Personally, I think that they send them out and they do tons of research in the heavily wooded areas. What they use that research for, couldn't tell you. But yeah, as far as research on humans, I mean, I'm a, I literally have something in my back that tells you that they do that. And I've looked into the implant thing as well. There's other people. Terry Lovelace is a guy that had an implant in him as well. Reached out to him. I haven't heard anything back, but yeah, it's very close knit community as far as people that have had an experience like that. But there's enough experiences like that exist that tell me, hey, I'm not alone for number one, but B, like it's happening. It's just happening, and it's across the globe. It's not just in the United States or southeastern Pennsylvania. It's like, no, this is globally happening. So
I
yeah,
think it's
I've
happening more now than perhaps in because Bigfoot legend has been around for a very long time in most
sure.
countries and goes back way to Native Americans. Do you think that there's more going on now, or do you think it's just always been the case?
I think it's probably always been the case. I think we have so much more access now, right? I mean, even when I was a kid, I had to go to the library to get books on these things. And like I said, I was literally doing book reports by myself. I had to do that in order to do like my research. As far as now, you can go online and find, God, a million things in 5 seconds. There's way more I mean, my camera alone, like when I go out, I've got these cameras, I've got this camera, I've got GoPros, I've got my phone, I've got everything to try to capture these things. And it's that's another reason I believe what I'm telling you as far as like they like they must like suck these things back up or whatever they do, just because they I feel like they should have been caught on camera by now, like more so than they are, because a lot of the ones that are out there are just not accurate looking from what I've seen. But yeah, I think it's been around for I'm sure it's been around for a very long time. I think that the alien craft things have been going on forever. There's hieroglyphics from back in the days, you know. So, I mean, I think all this has been going on for forever.
Have you heard by chance the Sierra sounds?
I have, yeah, I have heard them.
What do you think
Um,
of those?
oh, it's awesome. Yeah, I think they're awesome. They sound authentic, although I haven't heard any vocalizations other than the wooing. The wooing, so it didn't sound anything like what I heard. And even when I forgot, I didn't tell you this. So when we were looking at the thing in the race and with my kid, I looked at it and it actually did a vocalization. So it was crazy. I was like, basically, I think I was like, woo, woo, because I had heard the thing before, woo, and and then my kid, my kid like imitates everything I do. So he was like, woo, right? He's like, woo. And the thing was like, woo. So it kind of like did it back at us. And it was like locked, right? And that was it. But no, but back to your serious sounds. I have not heard anything like that, but it sounds crazy. Like that's pretty
Well,
wild.
the reason I mentioned that is because, Ron Moorhead, when I met with him and interviewed him, he talked about the sounds, but also, the phenomenal, recording that they got, of course, but also where this was happening, there was a blue craft overhead. And,
Oh, I didn't know that.
as far as I know, that he's never had any kind of an abduction or anything like that. And of course, seeing these an actual Bigfoot, I mean, he's still, it's hard to say, exactly what these sounds are because no one actually saw what was creating those sounds, but they made some assumptions with it. But just a very interesting thing. But they were actually a blue hovering craft,
I had not heard that
very
before.
large one, a very large one that was overhead at times. There were also rods of light that seemed intelligent moving through the woods there where the Sierra sounds were recorded.
Yeah. I don't doubt that at all. Yeah, I think there's a direct correlation with it. As far as unidentified, oh God, there's several. Several people I know have had experiences, and myself, I've had two other than the one where I was on it. I've had two other experiences. Once when I was going to get pictures, I'll never forget it. It was a JC Penney. I don't know if you know that big store, JC Penney.
Mhm. Sure.
We were going to get Christmas pictures. It was me and my family, so me, my mom, my dad, and my sister, and we were kids. It was before my abduction, so I want to say it was like 8 or 9 probably. And I just remember my dad going, "What are those lights in the sky?" And it was nighttime, and so the light went like here, and then it would go here, and then it would go here, then it here, and there wasn't shooting stars or anything like that. Like it was clearly something there. It was like a white orb looking thing. You couldn't see a craft or anything, but it was like this light, and it went here, 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 here. It was kind of all over the place, and then just gone. That was one, and we were all just like freaking out. And I was like, being the little nerd I was all excited about it. So yeah, that one stuck with me. Another one was in Virginia. I was taking my wife to Luray Caverns, it's called, and it's like our anniversary. So we were driving down there and near the Shenandoah Woods and Shenandoah Mountains, I should say. And we were driving down there, and oh God, we were driving along this road. It was like a main highway, but it was at night. And it's just like looked up and it was like this dark craft, kind of like almost like following us. It was like right staying with us. And I was like gonna crash my car. So because I'm just like looking. And I think I forget who saw it first, me or her, but once we were locked in, we were like, look at that thing, look at that thing, look at that thing. And we just kept I would like speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down. It would like stay like right there. It's right above the wood line too. So it was like right there. Uh Relatively big in size. From the one I was on, I was probably like half like it was not like a football field or anything. It was smaller than that, but I'd say like a medium sized craft if I had to say. But I pulled over. I was like, look, I'm gonna wreck the car. Like I'm just not even looking at the road, so I got to pull off. So we pulled off and like looked, and then nothing, gone. So that was frustrating because I was like, we're gonna say it, we're gonna let's get it on video, gotta get it, and nothing. Um, and what one more if you want me to tell you.
Sure.
My wife's aunt. She had right here, right in I live in Chester County, like outside of Philly. And right here, she came up to me. She knows the exact date because I've heard her say it a million times, May 16th, whatever it was. She's like, on this date, this happened. And she knew that I was like interested in all this stuff. I'm going to tell you right now, family, they don't know about my abduction stuff. Like my wife does, wife's family, obviously, whatever. If they see this, it is what it is. But they don't. I know how it rubs people the wrong way and people think you're weird, but they know I'm fascinated with aliens and all that. So she came up to me and she said, you know what? She's like, I saw this thing, and she's probably, I think she's like 72 or something. And she came up, she's like, I saw this thing the other night. I was driving and it was right above my car. And I got this really uneasy feeling and it wasn't making any noise. And I asked her to draw it. And she had never watched like Ancient Aliens. She's a very religious person. She's not into all this. Um, she started describing, I don't know if you know the triangle looking crafts. I've not seen one, but I've seen the drawings and stuff. The triangle, like with literally like where the lights are. So I just Googled like triangle UFO or whatever, and I showed her, and you should the her face was enough to tell me that's exactly what she saw. Like she was like, "Oh my god, that was it. That was it. That's pretty wild." I thought that was a pretty cool story because she like had no idea. And now this lady, Ancient Aliens, this that, like she's always online looking at stuff. I actually worked for a customer that worked for MUFON, and he was doing a lecture at the library that I talk at sometimes, and so she wanted to go. We ended up not going, but she wanted to go so bad to that, and just very interesting. I thought that it all kind of connects.
It does. It's an interesting phenomena for sure. And I don't know that we have answers to all of this. There's just a lot of speculation at this point as to what's really going on here. Um,
Unfortunately,
yeah, I mean, all of this has been talked about for eons, and there are people like you and many other people that I interview that have some very unusual experiences and
absolutely,
different conclusions sometimes as to what they're actually encountering or why. But certainly a lot of people are having, some really unusual phenomena
sure.
experiences. I think there is a thread that ties them all together. I'm just not sure we know exactly what that thread is yet, but you kind of
Yeah.
have to go out into the fringe to find any information on it. So there isn't a lot of just hardcore things that can pin it down.
Yep. Yeah, I believe there's multiple species as well. I do. As far as not only the extraterrestrial, but the Bigfoot as well. I just believe that if one race, for lack of a better term, is doing it, I'm sure somebody else is doing it as well. It's 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 too unique. Or I'm sorry, it's not too. It's almost like, hey, we have a car. They're gonna make a car. Like it's kind of like that. I feel like that there's other Bigfoot out there as well.
Did you get a sense that these alien beings with the craft, did you get a sense that they were from another planet out in the cosmos, or did you feel like that they were interdimensional, or did you get any sense of where they were from?
You're talking about the Bigfoot? I'm sorry, I missed the
No, I'm
beginning
talking
part.
about the craft and the
Oh
aliens.
no, absolutely got the sense that they were not from here. Yeah, absolutely. And I had asked them. I was like, where do you come from? Where do you come from? And they wouldn't answer me. So again, I would always get an answer. Like if I thought the thing, it would be like, we're here, bah, bah, bah. We're research, we're this. And with that, it was nothing. I was hoping, I was like, tell me, you know, I've looked at a lot of stuff for that too. I've been fascinated with that forever. So I was like, I've heard the Zeta Reticuli, I've heard this and that, but I was like, tell me where you're from. There's nothing.
Do you have you ever considered the concept of time, that they're from some other period of time and there's an overlap somehow?
I have not. No. That's an interesting theory too. Yeah. I mean, as far as you're talking about with like the bending time technology that people say exists, right? That there's a way where you can almost fold the thing and they go kind of. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like they're beings from another time, or maybe all time exists simultaneously. Of course, we've all heard that, and somehow
Sure.
that they're managing to, drop into our time frame at this particular point.
God, that gave me the chills. I don't know. Yeah, that's very possible. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't explain where they come from. I wish I could, but unfortunately, I don't know.
Done several interviews lately that has proposed that kind of an idea, and I think time is another thing we don't fully understand, how
Oh, for
that
sure.
that may interplay with our reality, and we have such a limited way of observing things.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a unique perspective. Yeah, that's I like that. I'm gonna look into that. That's pretty wild. I'm sure there's plenty of people doing research on it, so we'll find out.
Exactly.
I do think that we're getting close. I think we're getting really close with the way that people are talking. I'll tell you too, like I in the past I had never thought about in my 20s and stuff. I wasn't talking about this stuff. It was only in my like 30s where I got comfortable because I was like, why am I going to take this my experience to the grave? Like, what's the point? That if I have a story, I might as well share it, right? So that's when I started talking at the coffee shops. Like, I will literally go in and just start talking to people about stuff, to the point where in my local town they call me BFD, the Bigfoot Doug, and which is annoying. I've been like ridiculed and stuff, which whatever, I deal with it. But the if I'm ever out and they're like BFD, is because I'll be at a bar, right, and BFD, BFD, and people will be like, "What's BFD?" The people that don't know, like, "What's BFD?" I'm like, "Figure it out." Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna tell you. So I'll let your imagination wander on that. But yeah, they call me Bigfoot Doug because of that. So I talk a lot about it, and I just feel like get the stories out there, people. Like we're so close to something is going to connect at some point and just line up, and people are going to go, "That's what it is," right? So
Okay, so is there anything else that you'd like to talk about or tell me about regarding the subject?
no, I think this. I appreciate you letting me on here doing this. It's very very important that what you're doing. Um, Love your channel, by the way. That's very fascinating. So thank you
Well,
for having me.
it just kind of fell in my lap. It wasn't something I sought out because, I don't have an experience with Bigfoot. It was just something that came to me and then it's just kind of taken off. So
No kidding.
I just follow it. So
I
that's
didn't know that. I didn't know that you didn't have any experiences. That's interesting.
no,
But
no.
you do tons of research, right?
Well, I mean, since it's come to me, I've only been doing interviews on this for the past year, so that's more primarily my research. But I did just make a film by ways of Bigfoot,
I
that
saw
where
the
we took a
trailer.
team out. Yeah, where we took a team out, and that's gonna air March 15th. So I hope you get to see it.
I will absolutely. Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I will tell you, like, it is so frustrating doing the amount of research that we'll do. Because I'll go out. I'm looking in stream beds. I'm looking. I'm like, there's got to be something here, right? And I'll go to the active areas, the places where on the sightings map there's tons of sightings. So I'll go on there, and yeah, we're like looking all over the place, and just we have not found anything except for the noise at night. But other than that, that was it. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it's interesting how people just come across these things and other people hunt and hunt and hunt and hunt and don't find anything. So
Yeah.
it is a very unusual process.
I do believe though they're not meant to be seen. They are the one that looked at me was like it was almost like you can't see me. You can't see me. I was like, yeah, I can see you, dude. And so when I whooped back, it whooped, and I was like, all right, I know you know that I know that you're here, or whatever. So yeah, it's very very bizarre. But
Yes, there was
the whole
interaction.
phenomenon is bizarre.
Yeah, I agree. It has proven to be a very interesting subject And I appreciate people like you that come forward and tell your experiences because otherwise we wouldn't have a lot of information about it.
Yeah. Have you heard anybody else? Because I haven't seen all the videos, but I've seen a bunch of them. But I haven't heard anybody with like the not the abduction, but like the seeing or believing they come from the crafts or anything.
I haven't heard that they believe they come from the crafts, other than Stan Gordon, who is also from Philadelphia or the Pennsylvania area, who
Mm-hmm.
has I reported a case that he and another gentleman, John someone, about people seeing a craft and seeing a Bigfoot lowered from the craft. So I have heard of those experiences.
Yeah.
As far as people who, such as yourself, have been abducted and they didn't see a Bigfoot on the craft, but they were abducted, had all through their 20s, also just like you, had experiences with craft and alien beings and abduction, but they also had their own Bigfoot experiences aside from that, which I think is very unique in itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very unique, but it's so frustrating. Just not having all the answers, especially when you're searching so hard. You're like, come on, just let me know. I just want to know. Like I
Well,
won't even
if anything comes to you, let me know because I'm searching as well.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, like, dude, we're not gonna tell you. You're gonna put it on YouTube, right? That's probably what's
That's
so
right. We're going to broadcast it.
like
Yeah.
we'll keep showing the people that don't have cameras and everything else. Like, okay, that makes sense. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's very frustrating.
exactly. Well, I think with all of the interviews and all the things that are out there now, it's kind of becoming more of a normalized subject, whereas
Very
it
much
used to be
so.
very taboo. Yeah.
Very, very much so. Yeah, people are definitely getting more comfortable with it. I've heard stories from locals too, where they've been out hunting. They've been in the Poconos, another area, central Pennsylvania. They've been there's a place, God, what's it called, Bald Eagle State Park or something like that, and they'll go out camping out there. Very desolate area. You've got to drive 15 miles into the woods, like you're way out there. And they've had encounters with it as well, where they've said they've seen it. I'll see if I can I'll pass any information along to you, but they know me because I just been very open about it. Sure, you
Yeah.
heard from some of my friends. Sorry about that, but
Well, that's fine. They
but
were
yeah,
just
the
enthusiastic.
yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
You have to let them
Yes.
know you were on the show. It'll take us a few weeks to get this up, but I'll let you know when it airs.
Yeah, and I just want to give you a heads up too. My band is doing a Bigfoot. Like they're my guys are since we saw the one guy saw it too. He's like, we got to do a concept album about this thing, and I was like, all right, let's go, let's do it. So we're trying to do. We're like a heavy metal band, so we're trying to do like it's almost like the Sierra Sounds vocals.
Wow.
So yeah, so we're just like a lot of that stuff, but. So we're called Eyes of the Ocean if anybody looks at that. But it won't be probably out till next year or so.
Sounds good.
But yeah, pretty
Sounds
interesting.
good. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
for
you.
doing the interview. I'm going to go
Got
ahead and
got my
close out
apple
our
juice
meeting
here.
now. That's
Cheers.
fantastic.
Cheers. Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon.